I guess I'll just hop into it. I'm going to skip a lot of the older stuff. I feel like it's really not as important. There's one really big key memory that stands out when I think of like my childhood, my past and stuff. And I say this out of all respect, but it's part of my testimony, so I have to share it. I remember being 15 years old and sitting on the foot of my mother's bed. I was smoking crack and she was shooting up on the other side. And I had just started using heroin. I had been smoking weed for a couple years by then and drinking for a while. And like that time in my life is when it really started getting deep. That's when I started like selling and using and, all the nonsense. But I really don't want to spend tonight talking too much about the past. I want to talk about what Jesus has done. April 27th, 2023, I decided, I don't even know if actually I could sit here and I wrote down in my notes, and this is a lie from the pits of hell, I decided I wanted to get clean, but that's actually not really what happened. I got in trouble with the law. I've been arrested twice for trafficking, once for felony possession with a firearm, and basically I was facing time in jail, and I was going to the methadone clinic at the time, where Jared, I'm sure some of you guys remember Jared, Jared was working, and I had met Kyle previously, and Kyle he was always trying. I remember sitting upstairs one time just hanging out, and he was like, "Have you thought about rehab? You thought about rehab?" And I was like, "Man, I wish this guy would shut up." But that's how I felt. I didn't want nothing to do. I was like, "Dude, we can go fishing. You're cool, but I'm not really into this whole Jesus thing." I came to church a couple times with Kyle, and it just wasn't really my thing. It was like a place to be, more or less. I don't really know. I guess something drew me here, right? Obviously, it wasn't. Might have been Kyle's wonderful smile, but I don't know. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'm facing time in jail. I met Jared at the methadone clinic, and at that point, well, I guess I should back it up. I was sitting in jail, and it was like one of those Hail Mary prayers, and I didn't even fully believe in anything. And I figured, I was like, well, if God's real, maybe he'll hear this, and maybe it'll help. And I just prayed. I was like, God, if you get me out of this situation, I'll do whatever you want me to. I'll do whatever it takes. And then I come up with this, I don't know if I came up with it or whatever, there was this idea planning in my head. I'm going to call my uncle, and I'm going to tell him I want to get clean, that I don't want to go to prison, and I want to go to rehab. And I called him, and I was like, hey, if you bail me out, I'll go to rehab. I'll stay at your house until I leave, and we'll figure this out. And he agreed. Bailed me out. I think it was a handful of days later he bailed me out. And that's when I talked to Jared at the methadone clinic, and I was like, I want to go to a program. And I didn't even really want to go. I just knew that, like, I made this promise to my uncle. Now I'm staying at his house, and he's going to want to see me make the steps. So I was like, well, I'm going to make the steps and, hope that something comes through that pulls me out of it. Still using the whole time. I was doing drugs right in his basement where he let me stay. But Jared said he knows a place called U-Turn for Christ, Pennsylvania. We called Pastor Keith, and I think probably we spoke with you and, moved all the necessary pieces, and then I think probably 3 weeks later or so, I think I left. In that 3 weeks, though, I wasn't making any effort to get clean. I was tampering off the methadone because that was one of the steps that I had to do, but I think I was sitting in that third row back over there, like falling asleep at one point. And so that was where everything started to turn around, I guess. I took that ride to Pennsylvania, took the rest of my drugs before the ride, slept the whole way. I got there and hated it. First person I seen when I got there was a kid that I used to use with from Machias. And I was like, this isn't going to work. I was like, I already know this isn't going to work. He's here, I'm here. We're 2 hours outside of Philly, and we both know people in Philly. So I kind of drug feet the first 2 days. I hated the place, and then I got there on a Wednesday, and Friday night service, I seen everybody, like, I seen how happy everybody was in there. And honestly, my first thoughts, and I say this every time, I was like, everyone is so happy there is drugs here. I know somebody's got drugs, because that's the only, like, that's the joy that I knew that came from, right? But Friday night service, I just asked Pastor Keith, I was like, I want to believe in God. I want to believe like you guys do. How do I do that? And he's like, just repeat after me. And I said a prayer of surrender. And I think from that moment forward, and especially in U-turn specifically I'm talking about, everything, like I just 360'd, like I literally convinced myself in my head that I was in boot camp for Jesus, and everything I did, I just did wholeheartedly for him. And it worked. It got me through it. You guys know it works. You know how it feels. From that point, I was learning. I was still a baby, so I was still crawling. But I think I was supposed to be crawling when I was starting to try to run, and they put me in leadership too early. I agreed to it. Actually, I kind of even almost manipulated my way into it, because when he first brought it up, I was like, no, I have a pride issue. I can't do that. And then I kind of used that to like make it look good, so he would actually want, like, you know what I mean? So he put me in leadership, and then I ended up vaping. And we were out in the woods taking a hike, me and a few of the guys in the program, and we were taking pictures of the fish we caught or something like that. And I had a vape in my hand. And the guy sent it to the pastor, like the group chat. The pastor seen it, and I don't know if any of you guys know anything about U-turn, but when you mess up in U-turn, they take you at 10 o'clock at night to the back in the woods behind a cornfield, and you dig a hole. That's, you know, you got to be able to put a shovel on the ground and then turn the shovel at the bottom of the hole. So, oh yeah, no, I've dug 3 of them. It's a real thing. Yeah, no. I learned how to dig really fast, though. The first one took me 3 days, and then by the end of it, I was digging them so fast I had to get an extra 2 feet on it. So, there was times in that hole, it worked, man. I was sitting at the bottom of that hole crying, like, this sucks, I hate this. But the analogy behind it is bury the old self, right? And that's for the most part what I did while I was in U-turn. Not dig holes, but buried my old self. I dug a lot of holes too, and every time it was for nicotine. So I'll tell you what, when it comes to addiction and recovery and all that, nicotine is honestly, for me, was harder to quit than heroin. It was harder to quit than fentanyl, crack, all that. Nicotine is one of the worst, or if not the worst. For me personally, anyway, it was. So that got me in a lot of trouble, pulled me out of leadership, and I moved. So when you're in leadership in the first phase, you stay in the bunkhouse, and he moved me to the second phase house after that. And I guess then instead of like having purpose within the ministry, I still had purpose within the ministry, but I didn't feel like I did as much because I wasn't in the leadership role, and it kind of threw me off. And I started working like an actual job, and I think that I probably wasn't really ready for that. I struggled there too. Everyone was smoking cigarettes, so I'd be smoking cigarettes too. That's how I got my second hole. About 7.5 months into the program, I had throughout all of this, actually, I was supposed to say this later, but throughout all of this, I had children. I had my first son. I was 17 years old, and when I was 22, I had my first daughter. And I remember being so caught up in the drugs. My cute little baby girl I'd come in the house, and she would run up to me with her arms open and be like, "Daddy, Daddy," and I would walk right by her and like kind of like push her to the side and just like head straight for the bathroom counter so I'd go in there and get high. And she'd be screaming at the door, and I'd be sticking a towel under it, to make myself feel better about it, I guess. And then when I got about 7 months in the program, Megan, which is my wife now, we got married when I came home in November. But at the time, I was telling her how beautiful this place was, how awesome Lebanon, Pennsylvania was, and we had plans on moving down there. And she was like, look, I'm going to be honest. I don't want to move down there. And I was like, all right. So I spent some time in prayer about it. And then 7.5 months into the program, I kept feeling like God was telling me to go home. But everyone in the program was telling me that, like, no, God wants you to finish your commitment. And I was just really conflicted about it, and it wasn't getting easy on me. It was just tearing me down. So I ended up coming home, and 2 weeks before graduation, I got with Megan. We went back to my uncle's house till we found a place. We ended up renting off Michael Drake and those guys. I struggled. One of the biggest things when I came home is I struggled with smoking weed. I was like, I'm clean now. It's not fentanyl. You know, you can buy it at the store. I'll be fine. And quickly realized that it pulled me away from God so fast, because I would smoke, and then I wouldn't, like, if I seen Pastor Justin in the grocery store, didn't even want to look at him. I didn't want anyone to see me. I just started feeling shameful about it. And didn't actually ever see him in the grocery store. That's just a good example. But it started pulling me away from my brothers and all the fellowship I had and everything. So, so I did realize, like, I mean, it was probably, I don't know. I wish I had realized it sooner when I came home, because it was really unfortunate, because I was so on fire for the Lord when I came home, and then I got pulled down so fast. I did good for like maybe a month, and then did bad for like 6. But at that point, I was mowing lawns for, doing a little landscaping company around here, and I got hit by a car. I had to do physical therapy for a year. My whole body was sore. I actually still get pretty bad back pain from it. But through that car accident, I think it was like a week or a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks before I got hit by a car, I went to the Skate for Life, which is a youth recovery, or not really recovery, a youth event at the skate park here. It's like a skate competition they do every year. I don't even know why I was there. I just happened to be there. And I met this lady named Terry, and she was like, well, we're hiring for a youth recovery coach in Washington County. And no, that's what I was doing there. Okay, so when I first came home, I started hosting recovery meetings at the Recovery Center. And through the people at the Recovery Center, they invited me to that event. And then they introduced me to Terry, and I put in for the job. I applied for it, and I was like, well, I'll just mow lawns on the side, and I'll try to get this job. No, I don't know if I really had full faith that I was going to get the job or not, but a week later or so, I was hit by a car, and I was like, now I need this job, so I'm going to bug Terry as much as I can. And she hired me, and this was September. It'll be 2 years this September, so, September 2024, I believe that would be. And that job has been, it's been a real blessing. I've been, since then, I got hired in September, and by December, my uncle that I stayed with is also the principal at the Cal's High School. And I was like, if I'm a youth recovery coach, there's kids over there, I'll see what I can do at the high school. And we got in the Cal's High School, and I started coaching, I think, a handful of kids, like five kids. And from there, Woodland High School heard about the work we were doing, and they wanted us there too. So the program has grown from being a pilot program 2 years ago to now. I mean, I coach, 30, 35 kids around here, and that's, I like to think that's 30, 35 families that are receiving support and recovery resources and stuff that they need. And that I don't know. It's tough, right? There's always this saying I hear. It's been playing a lot in my head lately. It's don't let your past predict your future. And it's like, being in recovery and working in recovery is so hard sometimes, because you feel like your past is predicting your future. But I've come to realize, I think, that it's really not. It's the exact opposite. It's It's given you a chance to give back and alter other futures, right? So that job's been a really big blessing. I'm going, like I said, going on 2 years. Thursday, I'm giving a presentation at the Opioid Summit, which is Governor Mills' Opioid Summit. And I'm really excited about that. Just big things happening through there. And I do faith-based recovery. That was the whole. That was U-turn for Christ. It was discipleship. It wasn't really recovery. I went down there thinking I was going to rehab. And I tried so hard to find a rehab that was going to let me do methadone and that there was going to be girls and smoke cigarettes and stuff. And it just wasn't happening. God wasn't having it. He's like, that wasn't the deal, bro. But, where was I going with that? I don't know where I was going with that. I'm going back to the notes. Right now I have over 3 years of sobriety. 3 years I haven't touched fentanyl, crack, heroin, none of that. I used to stay up for 10, 11 days at a time smoking meth. I would stand at a counter like this for so long that my legs would be sore when I finally came out of it. Like bruised and everything. But 3 years away from all that stuff. I host recovery meetings down at the. We're not at the recovery center anymore. We're actually at the Common Ground Church of God now, up on Germain Street. We're there every Wednesday night. God gave me purpose, and I help people who were like me. I remember being, the first time I ever snorted a pill was on the school bus at Callis High School on my way home. I just remember, and I say this at the Opioid Summit last year, and I'll probably say it again this year, when they ask me why you do this work, and it's like, I remember my best friend at the time watching me snort that pill, and like it seemed like the little bit of friends that I had at that time started to like dwindle away, and everyone went away, and after a while it was like I was still on that bus, and it was just me with an empty bus with just like a handful full of drugs, you know what I mean? So I always say that I'm doing the job I do so that none of the kids are left feeling alone like I was. But my family's restored now. I'm married. We had another baby last December on Christmas Eve. Actually, no. Her water broke on Christmas Eve, and she held him in until the day after Christmas so we could open our presents and stuff. So, I sit in the church pew. Goes my grandmother, my dad, me, my kids, and I think the only bench we've all sat on before was probably at court, waiting for one of us to either go away or not. So I'm really grateful for what Jesus has done in my life. I'm really grateful for everything that He's given me, every opportunity, every blessing. I grew up with my grandparents in Robinson. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Galligan's Orchard down in Robinson. They used to I guess all the apples at the grocery store used to come from there. And so when I was just young, I don't even remember it. My grandfather got that land from his dad who had passed away, and I guess quickly he realized he didn't want to do apples. He wanted to farm, so he turned the land into farm. And I guess the reason I bring this up is because when I look back and think about my grandfather, excuse me, I just learned this the other day about the app. I knew the apple orchard was there, but I had this one little memory of seeing the apples in a bag. So I asked about it, and I was told that story. And I think back, and all I ever remember my grandfather as was a farmer. I don't remember him being I guess an apple farmer is still a farmer, but I don't ever remember him doing the apples. I just remember the farm. And I guess for me, that's a big hope, and a lot of the reason why I move forward. It's like the age that I was when he started farming instead of doing the apples is the same age as my kids are now. And it's like I don't remember him as an apple orchard guy any more than they'll remember me as an addict, right? So I'm hopeful that moving forward now, they'll remember me as the dad that loved Jesus, right? And it's so beautiful, man. I get goosebumps just talking about my little daughter, dude. We sit at the table and she prays and she's like, Lord, I love you, Lord. And she's only 4 and it's just the cutest thing, man. It just makes my heart soft every time. And, that's just how I want to be remembered. I don't want to be the apple guy. I want to be the farmer. Yeah, and then I wrote, Jesus doesn't just save a person, he changes a family's future, which is exactly what he's done in my life and my whole family's life. And I hope and pray that he does through me to a lot of the kids here at the high school, right? I'm very open with them about my faith-based recovery. They're really receptive about it. I think we have a great community of kids here, and I think that future generations coming up, you're going to see a lot more Jesus in this town, I think. So, Jesus could change my life. He could change yours. All glory to Christ. That's all I got. Thank you, guys. I hope that was long enough. Oh, it's 7 o'clock on the dot. Yeah, if there's any questions. Yeah, for sure. I can.